I wanted to thank everyone for attending, and I want to apologize because I went and got my tooth chipped, and I know chess players are easily distracted, and it's going to annoy them to no end the whole time, and it's going to make it much harder to hear anything that I say. But I apologize for that. I tried to get it taken care of with the dentist soon enough, but it got rescheduled, and I haven't taken care of it. I'm sorry. Okay, that's squared away. I wanted to start with something that I saw online. I want to say it was yesterday. It was a post from a player on chess.com. And it went something like, I'm rated 3 or 400, I believe. And he said, I haven't been able to make any progress. I'm on a 5-game losing streak or something like that. My life is terrible. I can't do anything. I'm ready to give it up. Okay, I've done like 40 hours of these problems. I'm up to like 1,300, but I keep getting paired with players over 1,000. They're just too good for me, and it's like I never respond to any of these things ever. Okay, I'm one of those guys. I don't post. I don't do social media. I don't. But I felt compelled. And I said, well, if you continue doing what you're doing, you probably have glacial progress, and nothing will change for you. Okay, but what you need to do is interact with somebody who changes the way you look at things, because nobody has a ceiling where you are. There's hundreds and hundreds of points of progress for you to make that are just there with any degree of focus that you should be able to achieve. So this isn't a big ask that you're going to be able to do a lot better than what you're doing. You just need to change something. Don't keep doing the same thing and expect a different outcome. So I thought that was a statement always worth looking at. A lot of chess players get into the same grind of repeating the same type of things to work on their chess, and they go, geez, I'm not making any progress, I'm not getting better. And there's a reason for that. You're not doing anything different. Okay, so sometimes you need to make changes. Try learning in a different manner. Okay, and that might help you out. So, in any case, I figured I would put that in. Now, the next part that I'm going to cover is You know something? I wanted to cover another thing that I saw today while I was working on this. Okay, in the material that I'm going to cover with you, there's a position that, see, I'm not necessarily advocating that you all play this position. Okay, what I'm trying to do is use it as a learning tool that you understand the difference between objectivity and what's good from a practical standpoint. At what level can you really play fast and loose, and at what level do you have to go, oh no, I've got to play something that's objectively, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about these things, and where chess games are won or lost too. So a lot of the advice people get, especially online, is not good. And there's different answers to the same question. And that's kind of the whole theme of the talk. And it's very hard now, because when I was coming along, there just wasn't, nobody had information. There's no such thing. You'd sit there, there'd be 20 people all huddled around the masters looking it over, and nobody was going to say anything. Laszlo and Dr. Marchand are looking over the game, and Matroni would say something ridiculous, and everyone would look at him like he had a third eye in his forehead. What are you doing talking? The masters are playing, So, making progress and understanding and things, it was very hard back then. But now it's the opposite problem. There's so much material. There's so many sources. You may find a great YouTuber. You're so impressed with him. Okay, you think he's got the greatest ideas, but then you look on the USCF chart and you're actually higher rated than he is. So maybe he hasn't reinvented the wheel here, and it's not all that he's explaining to you that maybe you know just as good as he does. So in any case, the thing that I wanted to discuss was I was going to in the what do you call it? In the game that I'm going to start with, it's a game between Timon and Lubijevic. Now, Timon was one of the top players in the world in the 1980s. He reached a peak of number 2. Okay, so I mean, if you don't have a K in front of your name, you know that's pretty good back then. And he was playing Ljubomir Lubijevic from Yugoslavia, another player who was probably like 12 in the world or something, because he was rated 25.95, and the 10th rated player in the world was 26.05 at that point. So he was like just off the top 10. Okay, and Timon beat Ljubomir Lubijevic, and I'll just show this game. Oh, the weird thing that I wanted to, so I went, wait a minute, why are they saying who's in the top 10? So I went to try to check who was in the top 10 in 1980 when the game was played. Okay, and I expected to see Gary Kasparov, and he wasn't on the list. They started with Anatoly Karpov, Mikhail Tal, Viktor Korchnoi, and it went down. And then I Googled what was Kasparov's rating in 1980. And they said 26.85, he was the number 6 rated player in the world. Does anybody see a problem with that?
6 is in the top 10.
Yeah. Why aren't they listing him? It's because we're in the time of fake news where FIDE probably doesn't like Kasparov so much they've erased him. You're not in the top 10 in 1980 anymore because we don't want to put your name on the list. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But there's a lot of ridiculousness, and especially with chess, when there's real answers, that can be annoying. So in any case, I found that kind of appalling that they did that. But in any case, let's get to the first position that I want to use as a focal point for the beginning of this discussion. Okay, if anybody recognizes this, we've just entered probably one of the sharpest positions known to chess. Okay, is anybody familiar with this position at all? Knows what it's called, or no?
I've played this position before.
Okay. Oh, you played the okay.
Yeah.
This is called the Bachmann variation of the semi-slot. Okay. Now, what black has done? See, it's very popular right now to play H6, which is called the Moscow, or well, depending on how you play it, you can play the anti-Moscow. In any case, H6, there's either, after H6, black's going to take, which is one type of struggle. I mean, white's going to take, and it's one type of struggle. Or white can play here, which now this becomes a whole different struggle. You know, because he's going to, well, he can actually take, he can take here first. And then what he's going to play is G5 and B5 and all this. And we get a really imbalanced position. Okay, so the point is, this doesn't give white the chance to play the simple bishop takes knight. Okay, things are going to get messy here. White really needs to grab the center and play aggressively. Okay, and black's inviting all this. And the only consistent thing to do is hold the pawn, and white immediately builds up on the pin. Now that was forced, but now that's forced as well. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Why is H6 and pawn G5 forced?
Because of the pin. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Now, by the way, if we get here, okay. Now, if we, is it here or after G5? There's a little trick variation. I don't.
After G5.
What's that? Yeah, it's after G5. Okay, there's a little cuteness here that if white tries to be tricky, okay, and take here, there's a quick little finish to the game possible. If black plays what's kind of a natural move, is developing with their, so white plays knight e5, and black plays a developing move, and you can see this has happened many, many times, and the game actually ends here. Well, I mean, effectively, because knight takes f7 is extremely unpleasant. Okay, and the point being, after this check, there's no place good, which doesn't allow you to, lose your queen. So this is very, very annoying for black. In fact, the best move here after knight takes, the computer will tell you is this, which you know you're not doing well when you have to play that move. So, but this is, hope chess. If black just captures here, black, white's almost trying to equalize here. It's just a better position for black. But that's just kind of a joke. Okay, so the main idea is to take here. Now, I would say it's got to be nearly 15 years. It's a long time ago. I played this exact way with black because I'd seen a game between Kramnik and Shirov where Shirov played this. No, that is not what I want to look at. Sorry. Takes. Okay. And I played knight to d7. And my opponent played. Now, before I show this, I want to show you, you see this g3 over here? Oh, that's what my opponent played. Okay, sorry. Before I show you what my opponent played, I want to show you something. It's one of the most famous games in chess history. It's from the radio match where Arnold Denker was representing the United States, and he played against Mikhail Botvinnik. Go figure, they named the variation after him. Okay, and Denker took on f6, and Botvinnik played bishop to b7, and Denker developed his bishop on e2. Okay, and Denker lost a game to probably one of the best prepared players in history, Mikhail Botvinnik. So it wasn't a huge upset or anything. He was just, completely outclassed in this game, and it's a very complex and it's a very healthy position for black. Okay, but the player that I was playing, which keep that in mind, that position, he played the newest finesse, g3, where you don't take the piece right away. But if you don't take the piece right away, I had seen Shirov play this move. Okay, and now white is forced to play h4 because there's a little threat. You can't just take the knight because the bishop hangs. Okay, but what happens if black just takes here? Okay, takes. Go ahead.
Why can't white play bishop h4?
What play? Bishop h4 is illegal.
Instead of h4.
Oh, you're saying here. Interesting. I would suspect bishop e7 is fine, but I don't know. I guess, let's see, in the master database, bishop b7, I guess is the, let's look at the engine. Oh, there's even b4 here. That appalls me. I can't believe that's the right move. But
Can I play knight e4 then?
yeah, you would think, right? But rook g4 is supposed to be an equalizer now. So, but this is massively this might be an interesting way to play. Honestly, I mean, if the computer says it's even, and you know what I'm saying, it's so complicated, it might be very well an interesting way to play. This is precisely the type of thing that I'm trying to talk about. Is that just because theory says ABC doesn't mean everything else doesn't work. Okay, bishop h4 actually looks like an interesting testing move. but virtually, it's virtually unplayed. It looks artificial. It looks awkward. So, but in any case, yeah, probably. I mean, the more I think about it, in a lot of these positions, the queen goes very well on b6, and then you'd be off the pin. So that might be interesting. And if you took with the pawn on f6, then what's the bishop really? Is the bishop that happy on h8? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, makes sense.
Jacob.
I also think you probably want to run your h pawn up the board.
Well, yeah, so it's in the way
so
of
like
your
your
h
bishop's not even
Yeah.
really
He's
doing
trying to be
it.
devil's advocate.
No, it's a good question. You know, a lot of times those moves were, everyone says, oh, you can't play that move. But Lev used to always say, it's not as bad as it looks, and then he'd win from this ridiculously ugly position. Okay, but in any case, so if we go back here, h4 is obviously, there's a few games here in the master database with bishop to h4. Black has a winning record, but in any case. So h4 here, okay, captures, this has to be captured, knight d5, and now the best move here my opponent played, g6. Now evidently what I played was the best move. I wasn't necessarily happy with the way it turned out though. Okay, I was worried about the potential of him taking on f7. So I took this pawn, and he played queen to g4. And I believe I did play queen to e7, bishop to g2. I don't think I played, I think I played queen to f7, which is a poor move. This got me into all kinds of trouble because I got freaked out here. Okay, because I realized I didn't have knight to e7, because knight to b5, here, I'll show you. Looks a little unpleasant. This is actually 100 times better than what I chose in the game. Okay. But, now by the way, we're having an opponent basically play perfect chess for 16 moves. Now you might think he's some 2,000, he's a player who never broke 2,000. He never won a game against me. Out of like 20 games, he drew once. Okay, this isn't the game he drew. He actually lost this after he won my queen, was +9, and I was totally crushed. Okay, so how important? I think I played something like this, and rook to h7 was extremely embarrassing. Like I could just resign, but I decided not to resign. I kept playing. And I actually won the game. But then I lost to a guy that I haven't lost in this century, except for that game, because I was so just spent. In any case, the point was the opening, I mean, could he have played it any better? Could my opponent done anything better than what he did? No. He played literally a perfect opening, made me crushed. He was literally more than +9. Okay. You know, at a given point in the game. You know, I gave up my queen in a very ugly way, but my central pawns and my king, it made things complicated, and he made mistakes eventually. Okay, but the idea is that there was a national master who had watched the game, and he said, you know, you're an idiot. I said, why am I an idiot? I mean, you know, I still did win the game. I'm not that much of an idiot. He goes, no, you're an idiot. Okay. And I said, well, what do you think I should have done differently? Okay, he played, I said, like, first 16, 17 moves like Shira. I mean, no, like Kramnik against Shira. Okay. And, you know, it's an easy way to, you know, yeah, you can see the game down here, Kramnik, Shira, right? I mean, Shira won, but, you know, in any case. So he said, no, why are you playing this system? You should play like this. When he plays knight takes g5, just play knight d5. Okay, and here you see in the games, the game I was referring to in 1980, Jan Timman won against Lubomir Lubojevic. Okay, so why would, this must be an incredible system, right? I mean, you have guys who are 2,600 playing this. It must be good, right? Okay. So let's take a quick look. Okay, in the position. Okay. Okay, that is not what was played. Yeah, he took that, right. So this was this game. And now it's funny because Lubijevic played the move I think is the best. This check here. Oh no, sorry. One move early. Bishop b4. Bishop b4. And then, did he play queen? Yeah, he played queen d2. Okay. Queen d2. Oh, this is wrong. Sorry. That was a different game.
Then we force Val.
Right. Yeah. Queen e4 now. Okay. So in this position, I think, now you can see the evaluations, 1.8. Okay. Now, to me, that's ridiculous. Come on. Why am I looking at a position where I'm down 1.8? Okay. That can't be viable to play something where that's, this is where you're going by force with the moves, right? This is your best case as black. Why would you play this? So I laughed it off. I said that that's ridiculous. This is losing for black. White's winning. Okay, but now if you actually look at what happens, I'm going to say he was right. Okay, here's why. Look how hard it is to find the right moves. You're virtually forced to play bishop e2 here if you want to have the advantage. And then after knight f4, you start to feel it. I may have remembered this whole refutation as white, but I'm not necessarily feeling comfortable at this point. How do you defend this as white if you don't have a computer to tell you what the right move is? Okay, because the right move is really appallingly unattractive. Playing queen d2, letting g2 hang with check, isn't necessarily people's first instinct for most players. If, for instance, you look at the Lee chess players who've been in this position, it's happened 288 times, and 104, the most, have played f3. After f3, slight advantage to black already. Now I'm not looking at all players because that would be ridiculous. I'm only considering players over 2,200. So geez, do you guys are all playing guys over 2,200 all the time, right? So wait a minute, these guys are screwing up. So what about regular humans? This looks like just a forced win for black, right? If you're playing normal humans who can't beat you when they're +9, okay, you're going to sweat a 1.8 advantage with a position like this? I don't think so. So was it a correct strategy? Was it? I don't know. But it's really, for instance, after queen e3, what is white doing? Are they really going to find this king f1 idea? This whole thing looks very, very painful if you're white. I don't think you're going to survive, because the thing is too, you know intrinsically that move loses. They're playing the losing line. I know it's the wrong line. That's very common knowledge. That it's called the Ella Sortsev variation, or yeah. What's that?
Ella Sortsev.
Okay. What he said.
Okay, showed me this too.
Well, yeah, but you pronounce better than me. Okay. So the point is, just because the line is losing doesn't mean it's a bad choice. Okay. Because losing is a very, very subjective thing. And so let me go on with the story. So this actually happened in 1980. Timman beat Lubijevic in this position. He found a very, very nice way to play, by the way. Okay, so what he did is he forced this whole situation. Okay, after this, he did not play the computer number 1. He played A3. Okay. Allows knight takes G2 with check. Which, how many people are you going to play that are going to allow that? Yeah. I'm not banking a lot. Okay. But here's the genius. After King F1, how does the queen keep guarding the knight without walking into the pin? Or it's like black's kind of just busted here. Everything's kind of coming on. Okay, it's beautiful defense. So look, the best move, which he played in the game obviously. He plays the best move, takes, and look at this rook with check. Who of your opponents is going to go, oh, I'm going to be giving up the rook with check. This is all fine, okay? And I'm just going to walk away. Oh, sorry. This is what, so even after Timon played all these brilliant moves, if Lubijevic had found bishop e7, it's still, for I think most players under master level, that's going to be a huge job to convert this position as white with your king all over the joint. I mean, you've always got to at least be watching for perps, no less, checkmates and things like that with your king in a bad way. Okay, but I think Lubijevic helped him out by, capturing here. I don't know, maybe I didn't. Yeah, in the game that was he captured it. He played check, and white went on to win rather smoothly after, I think it was just king d2 here, and there's a problem because this knight can never be taken because, let's say if the queen drops back to try to attack it or something, it just plays out, and the queen can't ever capture it because there's always bishop h5. It's like a recurrent theme in the position. But so Timon won a brilliant game here. But not all of your players that, your opponents are going to play like the number 2 player in 1980. No, I think it was around 90 actually when he was the number 2 player. I forget the dates, but in any case, very, very strong player even in 1980. So if we go to the next game that I want to look at, you had Timon said, I could play this as white too. Again, I could repeat this game. So this is him as white, and he's playing an American who's far weaker than he is, named Ron Henley. And it's funny because in chess, this all looks the same, right? But in this position, I don't think he actually... he did play queen d2, and Henley played in a more creative way. He attacks white's center with c5. Now, that looks in a lot of ways to be a more logical move. You gain the c6 square for your knight, you're bringing out your pieces, you're not playing for some little trick, okay? It seems more logical if you're attacking rather than moving the same piece around to try to see if white's going to blunder or not. And objectively, it's still losing though. White has an advantage here. Okay, the problem is white can just take, and black's trying to get his pieces out. But white's just safe now, and they're just, there isn't enough compensation, but the initiative continues on. It doesn't matter that objectively white's won. You still got to play all the moves. And in this position, black kept playing moves until white made a mistake. And black actually goes on to win this game in a big upset where I think it was at least 200 points lower rated. He beat Jan Timman. So I don't think there's a lot of point to this position now, other than illustrating the fact that the activity and the danger of the position just didn't go away because we traded the queens or anything like that. The initiative goes on. Okay, so if we go to the next game, because there's 3 games Jan Timman played in this position, and in the next one, he said, okay, I'm going to play that for black, which is kind of amusing. There we go. Okay. Here we go. This is the... Okay, so in this game, his opponent just played... No, it's not. Okay, so we actually get to the same position as the other in this game as well. Okay, so Timman said, geez, that American guy, Henley, beat me in this position. I'm going to play it against Predrag Nikolic, a Yugoslavian star for years. I'm going to play it against him and try it for black. So now you can imagine, the guy he's playing against is 2600. He's, almost 27, high 2600s. Okay. Oh wait, when this was played, though, Jan had dipped to 2630. Sorry, and Nikolic was 2655. But that's ridiculously strong. I mean, nobody in Rochester is ever playing at a level like that, honestly. I mean, at least not so far. Okay. So we actually reach. That was an interesting idea. So, I mean, Timman could have played more interesting probably with queen to e4, okay, which probably would have put more pressure. But even so, you had white win the game, but just the fact that what I'm trying to illustrate is that Timman felt it was unclear enough that even in 1997, and by this point computers had gotten somewhat better anyway, okay, that he wasn't afraid to go into this line, which is supposed to be, basically a forced loss. He thought it was complex enough that it would give him chances to beat his opponent. So that was the point of what I'm saying. Okay, I just wanted to see how I was doing on time. Are there any questions about this position? Because I think I'm going to move on to my next section if we're good here. Okay. So the next concept that I wanted to deal with is relativity in chess. Okay. I think a lot of times we think there's absolute answers and there aren't. Okay. For instance, the easiest example for this is the pawn scale model for chess. Okay, there was an English coach that came up with this idea that pawns aren't worth one, which every school kid would tell you. A pawn is worth one, everyone knows that. But it's not really true. The ones in the center of the board, the D and the E, are worth like 1.5. The C and the F are worth 1. The B and the G are worth a half. And the A and the H are hardly worth having, they're only worth a quarter. It'd be nice if they were just out of the way, get that rook file working. Okay. But if pawns are doubled, they're only worth half. So if you have a F pawn that's doubled, it would normally be 1 point because you have 2 of them that are doubled. Instead of being 1 each, they're half each, so it's still only worth 1. Okay. So that's an example that people can apply and readily use, and it's pretty easy. For somebody to sometimes realize that a piece like a bishop is actually stronger in a position, especially like a bishop and a pawn against a rook, that's more artistic. Okay, that's the subject for the next game, which I think is quite amazing. Okay, so in this game, you have, these are two computer engines playing. One of them is like a 3700 rated stockfish, and the other is only a paltry 2900, but still crushing all humans. Okay, so the game starts off. White is the stockfish, and everyone's following normal rules of development. Okay, there's nothing too exciting going on here. Till we get to a given point where white seemingly plays without any appreciation for the tactics in the position. Okay, so in this position, does anybody see the move white has that will question whether that bishop should even be on f5? Anyone? Kind of a double attack.
Move that's up there already.
Yeah, 94. Okay. So the computer has it right. Okay. Now, if the computer had to go back to C8, okay, like a lot of us humans would have played, bishops attack, pawns attack, simple, drop it back. Not very comfortable. I'm a little annoyed with myself for making that mistake, but computers see everything, and they go, oh, geez, we'll just put this in here on your rook. Okay. The problem is that white actually plays not really like a calculator. It plays better than that. It plays like somebody who can appreciate that sometimes a light-squared bishop, unopposed, and a pawn is stronger than a rook. So this conceptually comes across like this. Now, of course, white could take the rook, but that doesn't look that good. But if white just recaptures and says, okay, you won the exchange, are you happy with yourself? Actually, this position, the light squares are so vulnerable that white is already better. Okay. Even though it would appear he has only one pawn for the exchange, it's more than enough. It's a big plus, and from a practical standpoint, I think it's overwhelming. But even computers, you know, it's completely evident. So if we watch what goes on in this game, which, you know, very, very interesting, I think. Okay. Black plays the most natural move. Saves the rook, attacks the bishop. Okay. Drops back. Black's connecting the rooks. What else? White plays just a standard centralizing move. Okay. Now, I mean, here Stockfish says Queen E6. I don't think it's really any different than this move in terms of real strength. White's going to make the same type of maneuver. The idea for white here is Queen E2, Queen C2, and then the knight on C3 can come to E2. And then it's got choices of either looking at D4 or F4. Okay, so it's quite a pleasant position for white. And where's black's counterplay? I mean, it's unclear where black has any ability to create any issues at all. Okay, this is actually, you know, as weapon in practical chess, this is an ideal scenario. Your opponent almost can't do anything. Okay, but black's hands are almost tied, and white can just pick them apart. And how this is done when you're playing at 2900 rated computers is really amazing. Because you're not going to catch him on any 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 mover. None of that stuff's going to work. Okay, it's got to be a strategic maneuvering that you know shows your advantage. So, in this position, black realizes that white's control of d5 is really going to be an issue. So he presses to c6. What would be the drawback to playing c6? Exactly. We're weakening d6. Okay. So that long term, that would be something we might try to exploit. But initially, black's position is far too compact to be able to show any issues with trying to defend d6. Okay, so it's just not on the table right now. So white continues the plan, queen c2, looking to reposition the knight on c3. Okay, so black plays. I had an old coach. He would call this a very responsible move. Okay, what he meant was that it carries a lot of responsibility with it. Okay, because you're weakening your king's field. Okay, when you play a move like g6, and it's obvious, it's pointed at trying to control the f5 square, it weakens the field around your king, which is very dangerous. So immediately, white continues with the plan to try to put maybe more pressure even on those light squares and crack something open. Okay. So black is shifting off the pin, improving his position. White can play knight f4 because g5 never works because there's always knight 8 f5. Okay, black's trying to find some counterplay. A5, A4 is the only thing, seems available. I mean, there's no central, there's never d5 in a position like this. There doesn't appear to be any real counterplay. So, now white drops back. This is truly a genius strategic move. So Jacob, you're pretty good at attacking genius. What's the point of bishop a1?
I probably am going to put my queen on that long diagonal.
Okay, well...
And c3 is maybe a little vulnerable.
There you go, perfect.
Because of the c file.
Perfect. He nailed it. Okay, see, in the current position, there's sometimes when there may be little tricks with a future knight d5 or e4 or something, where that queen may become exposed if you left the bishop on b2 and made the battery with the queen on c3. Okay, by putting the bishop on a1, the queen is going to be really unassailable on b2, and that just makes the whole attack down the diagonal so much stronger. Okay, so that it's not just dangerous now it's just going to be overwhelming when it happens. So black tries to blockade to stop white from running him over, but now after the queen gets on the diagonal, black shifts his queen trying to support f3, white puts more pressure on the diagonal, and notice that knight just can't be moved. Okay, I mean, even if it's with check, opening that diagonal is just death. You're going to be dying on the dark squares. There's just no good way to defend it, because the bishop is misplaced over here when you're having a whole fianchetto over here with all these holes. This just doesn't work at all. Okay, so black drops back, and now white plays to d4. What's the point there, Jim? What's the point of knight d4? It's a Jim tactic. Jim likes this.
Well, knight takes pawn, worried by the bishop. That's
right.
Something good's going to happen.
Okay, because obviously the queen can't give her life for the knight, right?
And if the knight recaptures it, the queen can take the knight.
Right, and not just take the knight, win the diagonal, and the game's over.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, this is a crushing degree of pressure on c6, virtually forces black to give up the bishop. So now white captures with the pawn, and the knight has to retreat. Now, I think instinctually, this is the type of position where you look like, you look at a move like, what do you call it, d5 to try to, open up that long diagonal, but you'd be jumping like one little bit too soon when the computer shows beautiful finesse here and plays queen to c2. Now, the attack is against the g6 square, threatening just taking everything away from the king and stripping it, okay, which would be highly unpleasant for black. So black is going to defend that by reinforcing with the king. Now, this is another tactic Jim is going to love. So Jim, when you have a king lined up like that, how do you continue the attack? Okay, Bodie, what's the pleasant geometry here suggest? After black put the king on h7, how should white take advantage of that?
Computer move.
What's the computer move?
D5.
Yeah, that's wrong. David.
H4.
H4, yeah. Because you're just threatening to play h5, which opening that up looks like a disaster, right? So after h4, there's really only one move black can play to stop it, or it's coming. And now things are really severe. And d5 comes. There was no need to rush it. We wanted to force h5 first. And black chooses. No, why can't black capture that? The computer says it's the best move. Dave.
It looks like you're inviting too much danger. You have your d6 weakness. If bishop takes d5, you still have like knight takes h5 if they play knight takes bishop. Like you just have a lot of looming threats, and humans will left.
I think it's much simpler. Jacob, make it succinct.
I think you should take, because I think you can trade some pieces.
No. That's the point. That's why the computer actually doesn't trade the pieces. Even though it's the strongest move objectively, it's still so losing. Now, a human would not generally take, just because if you allow exchange of one of the knights, how do you close the dark squares and not get mated?
You sack a rook.
Yeah, no. Well, no, white might sack a rook on d5, but you just can't close the dark squares, if you open things up like that. So you have to try to, hold the dark squares, or you just get mated.
Why do ideas like either pawn c5 or pawn takes pawn and then knight e5 not work?
Why does, when you're saying after captures?
Either captures or to c5 and then play knight e5 to close the dark squares.
Okay,
Black.
I'm sorry.
You want to go to e5?
Yeah, I want to try to get my knight to e5.
Are you not, okay, like you understand what I'm saying, that if you have this diagonal opening, and then something's going to go to d5, it's going to win the house.
Yeah, so it's saying if okay, I see. So it's either this or I understand why this one doesn't work.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying after c5.
Oh, you're saying after c5 what happens?
Why doesn't like knight e5 work here? In the future, because you're closing the diagonal with it.
Oh, why can't black play knight d?
Yeah, because you're
No, he can. Of course, that's the try. That's why he's playing c5. That's the game. Okay. Okay, you were confusing me. Sorry. Okay, so white plays knight h3 because he wants to post the knight on g5, obviously, and black was listening to David. He said, "We've got to shut these dark squares down, or we're going to get killed." Okay, which it seems rather appropriate because death is coming. Okay, so, but after check, and the king moves, white continues improving their pieces because they realize all the play or distractions black can come up with are nothing. There's nothing of any point here. Whereas there's nothing that's going to stop white from breaking up black's play with an eventual f4. He's just got to time it at the right point. And f4 wins. And there's nothing black can do about it. So this is like strategic genius here. Okay, although it's a computer that came up with it, it's kind of annoying. So black's trying to create some counterplay with a4. White gets on the long diagonal. Okay. Now this is the right idea. Black is trying to exchange some pieces and survive. But unfortunately, white doesn't care. Okay. So white just says, go ahead. Now you might say knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes. Oh, f4. That's going to win something. Yeah. So we can't do that actually. Okay. I mean, you could trade the knights, but you can't make any real progress, and nothing stops f4 to do that either. So black tries to create some distraction over on the other side of the board. You know, if f4, how about rook a2? Okay. Then you'll have to answer some questions. But white's a computer. They calculate everything perfectly. They say I can do this anyway. Okay. And after the check, we're just going to interpose the bishop. Black's trying to shut things down. Okay, en passant, very nice. Check. Everything's forced here. But wait a minute, white can't even recapture. What's going on? See, and in some ways, this is what appalls me. How hard is chess? I'm going to tell you, half the club players in this club are going to draw this with white, even after all this. Well, not if they're playing the computer, they probably lose. But I'm saying if they're playing a normal player, even though they're a pawn up, they're probably just going to draw here. And I'm going to explain why I think that is. Rook e2 is obvious, right? You've got to do that. But then knight here. And now, I think such a small percentage are going to play king to h3. I think almost like 80 or 90% are going to play king f3. Okay, you know, it's just a little counterintuitive. Okay, centralizing your king, you know, it looks immediately better. This is winning, but I just want to illustrate here what happens, I think, in a lot of cases. If, for instance, your opponent plays a move like this, nobody's playing g4 here. They're looking at things like, oh, what if knight takes pawn and rook takes, and they're going to see ghosts here. Okay, it's fine to allow that ending. Knight takes pawn, it still wins for white, but I think a lot of people are going to be scared there and not allow that whole situation. Okay, it would still be, you know, a relatively easy win, but also a lot of players will try a move like pawn to e7. Oh, my pawn's attacked. I'm threatening to queen, and it won't be attacked anymore. Now, Matt, what did we just do when we played pawn to e7?
We gave black an out.
What was the out?
Basically, they have a chance to draw.
Well,
because
of.
Make a hole for the king to escape.
Yeah, the king couldn't get any closer. See, when we were back here, see, king f8 was not a move because of bishop check. Okay, the king was frozen here. Okay, I think a lot of players don't always appreciate the lack of moves their opponents have. Okay, and they're going to just see this constant threat of this distracting the rook and dropping the bishop. Or they might play a move like this. Oh, I'm not going to allow that. Or I'll play bishop e7 and then I'll trade or something. I mean, they'll ruin it for themselves.
That's right. Yeah.
See, right here, white's fine. White's still got the win going on. The minute white pushes, it's drawn because of the f7 square. This pawn's always dying. There's no saving the pawn anymore. Okay, the whole game's changed. Okay, now, and if any rook exchange, the e pawn's going to drop, and there's no win anymore either. Okay,
So instead, we contrast that with king over to what is h3.
right, which wait a minute, I want to show. Okay, so if we had not played, I mean, we're still fine after king f3, but it's the direct way to win. Oh shoot, what's going on here? I want to go back. There we go. Knight e8. Okay, so the direct way to win is to just improve your king. Okay, now the problem for black is he actually doesn't have any moves that improve his position. Okay, because the king is just going to play to h4 and g6, and this can't be defended. It's just quite simple, and his position collapses. Now, in the game, after this, now again, this could be thrown away here. Even after h3, if white were to get nervous and say, oh, what if he plays knight takes pawn and rook takes bishop, and I'm worried, I'm going to put my pawn on e7, the win's gone. It's a draw. Okay, so if white continues, like he did in the game, now black's forced to try the move that fails, because it's all he has here. Now, incidentally, in this position, we don't actually have to look any further here, and I would hope everyone would have this position kind of like in their toolbox. If I get this, I'm winning. Okay. The point is, two pawns connected like this win, especially when they're just too far advanced. Unless, like let's say the black pawn was ready to queen or something exceptional where it's going to cost you a rook right away, or some kind of insanity. Otherwise, the two connected pawns, it kind of just wins here, because they provide shelter, they hold each other, they allow the movement. There's no dealing with it. And black really can't create two connected. Okay, he's always going to lose one in the deal, and then he's tied down to defense. He can't advance it and threaten. So the game's basically over here. But all the accuracy that was required, I think, is kind of impressive. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions?
So what was the last move?
I'm sorry. The game went like this. Oh, at this point, actually, black played this move. Okay, in the game. Yeah, it went like this. And it's quite easy. There's not a lot to it here. The pawns allow nice shelter. The pawn is dead in terms of progress. The king's exposed. There's nothing. Jake?
I wanted that moment where you played king h3. I thought king f3 was better because you can play like g4 and open the h file. And then I thought that black was just like mated.
Okay, so
if you play king f3.
I'm not going to lie. Like when I first look at this position, it screams out at me, "Oh, centralize your king." Yeah. Usually, centralization is a very powerful idea.
I didn't think that black could close the h file. Like I was just, and then I used my rook and let the bishop to like.
Well, no, this is still winning. Obviously, all you got to do is not let the black king play, and you win. I think that's just the key. I think the power though of the penetration h3 h4 g5 is so much better than anything else. It's so clear that it's almost I'm going to go out on a limb and say not playing is a mistake, just because it wins so easily.
It's like a little mini king walk.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that like black is playing like a king down essentially.
Oh yeah, no, that's the whole point. See, I mean, if this pawn could be shown to be weak, if it was legal to play something like king f8, king e7, all of a sudden, like, and let's say this is a light square bishop, black's probably fine, you know, in a position like that, okay, where everything can be held. You know, maybe the knight's here holding the one weak square on the line. Everything's fine. It's changed the rooks, just held. But here, no, it's just black is they're down a king. They basically they don't have any moves. You just can't stop the king penetration. It's too strong.
Earlier, was white forced to agree to the simplification?
White forced these simplifications to win the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, white was a computer. They saw all this.
Oh.
The 3700 rated computer versus a 2900 rated computer.
Oh, I see.
So you know, black was doing the best he could, really, way better than anybody, but not good enough against, you know, 3700 rated computers, pretty rough. So,
but
yeah.
So in terms of complaining about different points of view of things, there's one principle that people go and says, oh, passed pawns must be pushed. And the other antithesis of that is like, okay, if you push the pawn isolated too much, it can be more weak, especially with the e7 move.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like, oh, well, the principle, and it gets like...
No, see, what he's saying, because Matt teaches chess, is something he's probably seen in his students' games a million times, where they get a little happy pushing a pawn, and like we've shown, if you play e7 here, there's no more win. It's over. Okay? All that perfect play to get you to this point, it's still not enough by just giving the king the ability to enter the game, and you know, it's not even a hard draw really after that.
Yeah,
because e7's always dropped.
It's another point about how it's relative.
Yeah.
Could you put up the position right when white had the choice to permit the exchange sacrifice early on in the late opening?
Oh, okay, sure.
Just to
try
to remind myself about how it evolved from that.
Right.
Because it really did look like, wow, the long diagonals were just killer. And
Yeah,
there's some way to forecast that very early on.
Well, I think in terms of when you're looking for how strong this bishop is going to be, if you see already, the dark squared bishop looks kind of inept here. Okay, the pawns are all on dark squares. They're not fighting for any light squares. Okay, you already have a pawn weakened around the king side on a dark square. That's going to further weaken the light squares. I mean, it's kind of straightforward that bishop is going to be really strong. But to have the foresight and judgment to go, okay, I'm just going to give you the rook, okay, and a pawn is enough, that's impressive. I mean, especially from a computer standpoint, because it's considering all the best ways to simplify, to defend, and it's still saying, hey, this still comes out that white is better. That's an impressive concept. Right? And the way the computer utilized the advantage maneuvering, I think the creation, forcing the creation of the weakness. When c6 was played, the weakness on d6, but then you look at it and you go, how can I ever exploit d6 in this position? I mean, wow. You know, if you're a human and you're doing that, you're scaring me. Okay? You know, because you have to see so far ahead. You know, this whole concept where he forces the exchange of that bishop to further weaken, you know, because of the weakness there, he's going to force this exchange where you're getting this extra power to control the center and disrupting the opposition on the diagonal, giving up the dark squared bishop. I mean, it's really, you know, this is beautiful. It's a beautiful concept. I mean, it's it's just a little saddening to me that this wasn't a human that came up to the concept, that it had to be a computer. Because I'm not sure how a computer could calculate deep enough to come up with this intrinsically from calculation. You see what I'm saying? There has to be something in the algorithm that they're doing that makes it play brilliant like this. This is...
Can you go back to that where the bishop, that exchange sacrifice? So what if the h6 was back on h7? Would it still?
Would it still be as strong?
How would that change the?
Okay, so first off, it would make the sacrifice not as strong for white. Would it be enough to, say, oh, it's not good? I don't know. I mean, this was pretty clear cut. It was one-way traffic the whole game. Would that have made it a more competitive game? I would think it more competitive. Whether it's still enough, I don't have the judgment. I'm saying though, having h6 in weakens those light squares where you have the unopposed light square bishop. So I would think it's.
What if you edited that position and moved it back? What would how would the engine?
Oh, you're saying what would be the engine assessment? Yeah, I'm not sure how I would do.
I'm going to ask you about plus 0.8 because it's slightly better for white having the pawn on h6 because you're going to have more of a weakness on the light squares.
No. Okay, so shouldn't it be less? So it should be 0.4, right? It's 0.6 now.
Yeah, he's talking about after you do the exchange stack, and after you do the exchange stack.
I'm saying,
oh.
I mean, would you do before doing the exchange? If that pawn was still on
Yeah.
the
Oh no. Yeah. We both understand what you're saying. Okay. What we're trying to get at though is okay. So in this position, it was 0.8. Okay. After 0.6 actually. Yeah, it was 0.6. So it's 0.6 here. If, for instance, that pawn's at h7, I would guess it's still. I would probably say white probably still is a plus, but it would be maybe fractionally less. Maybe it's 0.5 or 0.4. That would be my best guess, but it would be a guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the problem with like the justification is the c7 d6 pawn structure because those create all the holes. Like the problem was black's playing g6.
But you have to remember, part of forcing g6 was the threat to come to f5. If the pawn is still on g7, the knight on f5 isn't as powerful as with a pawn on h6
right, yeah.
because there's always the threat of knight takes h6.
Right.
So that's my theory anyway. Right. So
That's why you're the person teaching your pawn.
Why did black play h6 to begin with? Like to discourage knight
yes,
d5 or
to
something?
keep things off of g5.
Okay.
It's in the English.
Was it the Moscow?
No, that was the other.
Okay.
But in the E5 English, I reverse Sicilian English, whatever you want to call it, H6 is a common move for black to make. That it's not unusual. Okay. In fact, in this position, it's one of the famous waiting moves. So if you play like this, okay, and some players with black like to play bishop b4 here. Okay, so they'll wait because they want what's that?
They want a nice and 3.
They want a knight on c3 so they can play bishop b4. So this is even a move here. You'll see this is in the master database. There's hundreds of games. It's not mouse slip or anything. No, they meant to play it here because of the fact they're trying to wait until white plays knight to c3 so they can play bishop b4. Okay, but so it's not a terrible move in a lot of positions in this structure, but in this case where you're going to sack that light squared bishop, this accentuates the weakening that g6 causes. Because the knight is more threatening when it's on f5 with the pawn at h6. Okay, we're wrapping up here. Thanks everyone for attending. Good luck tonight. Have a great evening.